Welcome, it's Liv, and today I will be sharing some books with you that I've reread. So I'm going to do a sort of ranked list today for you, where I will be showing you books that I've reread once, going all the way up to the book that I've lost count how many times I've read. So this is a kind of recommendations video because all of these books I clearly love, so I recommend all of them. Just a little disclaimer so I don't have to keep saying, I'd recommend this book, read this book, because, you know, why would I reread it if I didn't like it? The book number one that I've reread once is Divergent by Veronica Roth. Before the movie came out, I read the whole series, and then just before the film, I had to reread the book. As I do with most movie adaptations, I tend to read the book just before the film comes out, and I truly just adore this book so much. It is full of action. It has everything I would want in the book, and it doesn't slow down at any point. It's so fast-paced, you never get bored, and I tried to do this with Insurgent, you know, read the book before that thing came out, and then what a fail that was, because that movie had nothing to do with the book, so there was no point me rereading it. I wasn't a big fan of Insurgent Allegiant at all, but this first book I am in love with, so I'm so glad that I reread it during my lifetime. Book number two is one of my favourite series in the world still, and I read it years ago, but it's still right up there with just one of my faves, and that's Ali Carter's Gallagher Girls book. And this book is a spy book. It's set in a boarding school where the pupils are training to be spies. It's very sophisticated in the way that they get trained and all of that stuff, and it gets so mature as the books go along. Reading these books every year, as I was growing up, so were the books, and they were getting darker. I reread this first book because after I finished book 6, I kind of had withdrawals, and I thought, this series isn't over, I'm just gonna start again. So I reread this first book because it's not very long. Next book is one of my favourite trilogies in the world, if not my favourite. Although recently I read the Blood for Blood series by Catherine Doyle, and now it's kind of fighting for top spot with the book I'm about to show you. I feel like I'm cheating on this series by saying that the Blood for Blood series is my favourite, so I think I'll just give both of these top spot, and that's the Arcadia Awakens series by Chimera. This is the most underrated book on the planet, and I'm so mad that people don't rave about it. It ticks all the boxes for what I love in a book. It's about the criminal underworld, so it has families rivaling against each other. But the twist is that they're shapeshifters, so each family has an animal that they associate with. So there's panthers, there's owls, there's snakes. I had to reread this because I had so much fun the first time, and when I reread it, it felt like reading it for the first time, and I love when a book does that. So, you know, I need to go reread the rest of the series now because I love it. The next book that I've reread is Starcrossed by Josephine Angelini, who is one of my favourite authors. This series, or in particular this book, had my emotions breaking down the whole way through. There was never a dull moment in this book. It's about mythology, and it's loosely based off of Helen of Troy, so it has plenty of romance. It's about this girl who lives on this island when this family moves in, and they're kind of weird. One of the guys from this family, she feels the need to kill him, and it is so kick-ass. And honestly, I had to reread this just because I love all the characters. If you like Cassandra Clare books, you would love this series because the side characters are just one of the best things on the planet. This series just develops everyone, and it's perfect. The next book, we're going up a bit to 2 to 3 times reread, and that is Hush Hush by Becca Fitzpatrick. I became really obsessed instantly, and especially this first book I think is my favourite, and it's a really easy book to reread. It has a lot happening and you don't really get bored, and it has a great love story that I'm just so compelled by. So, you know, I had to reread this because this is also a Twilight hangover for me, because I just had to cure those withdrawals somehow. So I picked up this fantasy series because it was getting very popular and I had really good things, so I thought I'm gonna give this a go and try and get obsessed with a new series. So this was definitely just one of my faves that I reread when I'm really sad. Next is a series I don't think will surprise anyone, just because I feel like a lot of people have reread this, and that's the Hunger Games series by Suzanne Collins. So I read all these books before the films came out. I reread the whole series before each film most of the time, except Mockingjay, which was my least favourite, so I only reread that for the actual Mockingjay film, whereas beforehand I used to just read The Hunger Games and Catching Fire because these books are ridiculously easy to read. Even if you don't like the plot or this isn't your type of genre, the writing just flows so well and I had so much fun rereading these. Next I have The Secret Circle by L.J. Smith. I love L.J. Smith's writing so much because she writes paranormal in a very good way, and it's very dark and it's very intricate and the plot twists are just amazing. I love her plot twists, her characters are incredible. So rereading all her books is just one of my favourite things to do, and The Secret Circle is about witches and covens all living on the same road, and we find out a lot about the history about the town, and you might recognise this because it was a TV show on the CW before it got cancelled after one season. Thanks for that, you know, you left it on a cliffhanger. I hate everything. But however, the only thing I will say is I only like the original Secret Circle books because L.J. Smith actually only wrote the first 2 bind-ups. The rest of the series was carried on by a ghostwriter, which I am still salty about because it's not the same. The character personalities changed and I was like, nice try, okay? This isn't L.J. Smith's books. Next, I have another L.J. Smith series, and that's the Nightworld books. And I actually read this during the Twilight days before I read Breaking Dawn. This series will forever be one of my favourite things to read. So in each book there's 3 books, so it's technically a 9-book series, and each book features 2 different characters, so it all follows one plot line loosely, but it has different protagonists in every book, but the older protagonists make appearances in all of the books and all the links. I love when we get sort of Easter eggs and appearances from other people in other books that we've met in previous stories. So what I used to do is just reread my favourite small stories. As you can see, these books have been wrecked to death. They are just, the spines are deceased. So me being me and a psychotic book reader, that's right, I rebought them. I rebought the series so I could have beautiful, clean things of one of my favourite fantasy series. So now I have all these different copies to immerse myself in if I ever want to reread about vampires and werewolves and witches and dragons. I am so obsessed and I will forever be rereading these stories. So now we're getting to the series that I have no clue how many times I've read. And you can probably guess because it was kind of the main theme of this video by accident. I didn't plan it like this. And that is Eclipse by Stephanie Meyer. Yep, that's right. My most reread book on my whole bookshelf is Eclipse. So Twilight in general is just my most reread series altogether, but I'm showing you Eclipse specifically because this is my favourite, because I was a huge Team Jacob fangirl, and not in the sense that I wanted Bella to end up with Jacob at all, because realistically I don't think he was ever a contender, but in this book he had the biggest part to play, and I just adore this series so much, and I'm so lucky to have the special edition of it. All the rest of the books I just have the normal ones, but it comes in a box. It has these, I have no idea what this is called, but these cut up edges, so they're kind of spiky, which is just the coolest thing ever. So with this book, it got to a point where I would just reread my favourite chapters because I would know it off by heart, and I would just dip into it whenever I wanted to read a certain section. So those are the books that I've reread the most out of my whole shelf, which has about 200 books. Of course, I do have other books that I'm obsessed with and love, but I just haven't got round to rereading, and I will probably need to make a part 2 of this video. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel and like this video if you enjoyed it, and all my links are down below. You can add me on Goodreads to see what I'm reading and all of that stuff if you want to check it out, and I will see you next time. Bye!